Hey, we are going to do a hip opener and inner thigh flexibility stretching routine. You're going to need either a yoga strap or maybe just a resistance band or long towel, just something that is long enough that you can wrap it around your leg for the hamstring stretch. And then either 2 washcloths or 2 shirts, just 2 slidey things that you can use, or 2 furniture sliders if you're on carpet. That would work really good. Or 2 magazines or books would work if you're on carpet, so that we can do a stretch towards the end where we need to be able to slide out and use this if we're on hard floor, or use more of like our book or magazine if you're on carpet. So let's go. We're going to start with the hamstring stretch, so go ahead and take your strap around the bottom of your foot and bring your leg up, keeping it straight so that we're not hyperextending through the knee, which means that we're not letting that knee overbend. But we're thinking about that stretch happening from the hip. You should feel it all across the back of your leg here. Relax the upper body and take those nice deep breaths as you sink into the stretch. Every exhale, your goal is to see if you can make a little bit longer, a little bit deeper on the stretch. And we're going to switch here in about 6 seconds to the other leg. Okay, let's go ahead and take that strap to the other side. Again, noticing those differences from side to side and making sure that we're not forcing anything to happen, so just taking that nice gentle stretch. If it feels good, you can close your eyes. Once you get going on this one, maybe you can mute me and just use me as cueing, for which one, when time to switch. You could just be hanging out watching TV. These are really easy stretches to do at any time. Best thing is to do them when you're warm or you've been moving around, so after your workout or after a long walk or bike ride, or maybe at the end of the day if you've been pretty active for most of your day. Check in again that upper body is relaxed. We're going to go ahead and switch into our hip stretches. So you have a choice on this one. I really like doing it with my ankle on my knee and bringing myself upright so that I'm getting a deeper stretch. If this feels uncomfortable, whether it's through your lower back or anywhere else, you can do that same stretch on your back. So if you're on your back, the way to make it deeper is to push with that elbow on your leg that's up and pull with that thigh inward until you feel more of a stretch on that bent knee. If we're upright, if everything is far away, your heel from your hips and your knee from your chest, it's going to be not as much of a stretch. And if you can get it closer, you're going to feel a better stretch through that hip. So pick whichever one feels good, play with it from day to day, see which ones you feel like you've got a better stretch with. Again, every exhale we're trying to get longer, make longer, and we're trying to get deeper into that stretch. So maybe a little bit more of a scoot. And let's switch. Let's do the other side. Again, noticing those differences from side to side. You might have more external rotation, which is the rotating of your leg out this way from the hip on one side versus the other. And if you do, the stretch can help, but also just some like hip circles and mobility things along with breath work can really make a difference. So pay attention to those differences from side to side if you have it in your internal and your external rotation on your hip. Really important stuff to pay attention to. Shoulders are down. Make sure we're not scrunching into that shoulders and neck, and also not taking too much work into the arms. So kind of push your arms through and push your shoulders down, which actually gives you a little deeper stretch through the hips too. We're just going to go into our butterfly stretch next. So you're going to go ahead and bring your feet together. and open up your feet like a book. Think about a string pulling up your spine towards the ceiling so that we're starting to get that awareness of that length through our spine. And as you open up your feet like a book, your knees are falling towards the floor. Remember, our breath makes a big difference. So if you feel like you can get that longer exhale, we might get a little deeper through the stretch. If it feels okay, you can fold forward. Just make sure that we're not rounding through the back. So a side view for you guys is important that I have that here, because I think a lot of people just go down like this, and we're not really getting as much stretch through our hips, through our inner thigh as we could if we hinged from the hip and kept our spine in more of a neutral position. So a nice straight spine. Knees coming towards the floor, maybe a little bit more as we get more into the end of this timer. Good. All right, so now we're just going to take the legs out wide, and we're going to do that same thing. String pulls us up nice and tall. We're going to walk our hands out. So maybe this is as far as you can get before you feel like you're going to round through your spine, or maybe it's somewhere else. Really pay attention to where you get, where you feel like that's your end range of motion, and then start that breathing pattern. And every time you take your exhale, see if you can walk those hands out a little bit more and let your torso come towards the floor. That hinge should be happening at the hip, and our legs should be straight and locked into place. So make sure those knees aren't popping up. We've got one last one that we're going to do. So you're going to take your towels under your knees, and they need to be to the outside of your mat. So if your mat is too wide for this to happen, you may have to do some rearranging being off the mat. So I'm straddling my mat. My knees are on my washcloths or my hand towels or whatever you've got. And we're just going to walk it out and let our knees kind of split apart so that we get that nice deep stretch through our hips. Sink down and sink the hips back. If you have yoga blocks or things at home that you can help make you more relaxed into this position, you could put like a yoga block under your head to help support your head so you can relax into it. You could put yoga blocks under your inner thigh, maybe to help with a little bit of support. And remember that when we're here, we want to be pressing our forearms into the floor and trying not to let our head just drop. So think about your neck staying in line with the rest of your spine. I want you to hold that for a few more seconds. So we're opening up through those inner thigh muscles. We're trying not to let our lower back arch. So think about that tilt with your pelvis. And let's just take about 3 more breaths here. That exhale is longer and longer. And maybe you get a little bit deeper into your stretch. Last long inhale and long exhale. All right, so this is one where I find where it's a little bit more challenging to get out of it once you're in it. So make sure that you're conscious of what you're doing as you're getting out of it and we're not pulling muscles. I like to walk my forearms in and then kind of push even more through and sort of lift with my core to bring my knees back to my mat and sink back up. So I hope that helps open up through the hips. Remember, you could run through it a second time, or you could do each stretch a little bit longer, but these are some really good ones for inner thigh flexibility and hip flexibility, for feeling better, but also maybe if your goal is to do something like get deeper into stretches or do something like splits.